in
All
order
right.
for the world to be different, we have to do different. And that takes risk, and that takes faith, and that takes just letting go of what we think we need to do. So I just like your message of the podcast, it takes action, right?
Yep.
We have to do different. It's
Yep.
not going to happen just for us in front of us.
Yeah,
So
and there might be some learning in that. Madeline Rider has spent close to 2 decades working behind the scenes of small businesses and nonprofits, managing operations, handling finances, designing systems, and doing the often invisible work that keeps organizations running. With an educational background in social sciences and Native American studies, she's always brought a different lens to that work, one rooted in community, reciprocity, and the belief that how an organization operates matters just as much as what it stands for. Recently, she took everything she'd built and learned and launched Madeline Rider Consulting, a firm that helps mission-driven organizations design and develop operational systems that actually reflect their values. Madeline, welcome to Hustle 50.
thanks so much, Rory. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's super awesome to have you on right out of the gate. I think the story here is that you struck out on your own and you essentially started your own consulting firm. And I think that that is a very powerful move to make, and one that most people that, especially those that have jobs, are really afraid to do. And so we'll get into how that happened, and what that looked like. But for anyone just hearing your name for the first time, take us back. Like, where did your career start? How did you end up spending nearly 20 years in operations and finance?
Yeah, I it's a long story, right? Because it's a lot of years. I started working full time when I was in high school, and I got a position as a receptionist at a hairmaster's. Okay, I literally attribute to that being the beginning of my administrative career because I could have been a busser, right? I could have worked retail, but I became a receptionist and I had to count the till at the end of the day, right? And I had to
Right.
close the books. So
Sure.
I always say that's the beginning of my career. From there, I got a job, and I don't know why they gave me the job, but I was a bookkeeper for a family-owned restaurant at 19 years old, in Lower Queen Anne. It was an Italian restaurant that's no longer there, and they were just about to open a second location in Wallingford area, Green Lake area.
Yep.
And I worked for several years as a bookkeeper for this restaurant, and it was chaotic and crazy, and it was family owned, so it's drama all the time. Uh, but from there, I ended up in the legal field. I worked for 5 years as a legal assistant for a family law attorney. And what I found is that everywhere I ended up, they were on the precipice of digitization,
Mm,
right? So my career has developed during a time span where things went from analog, paper, everything to filing online, everything's online to COVID, work from home, like this, like so I was really adept at technology already because MySpace,
right.
live journal, okay?
Sure.
Um, Fixing the internet so I could chat with my eighth grade crush on MSN Messenger, okay?
Right.
So I was
Social media forced us to become tech
I learned how
experts.
to HTML, right?
Mhm.
Because I needed to deck that live journal out,
Right.
okay?
Yep.
So I'm what they call a digital native. I grew up 1995. I still keep my 1995 email address, maddieryder@yahoo.com,
Oh yeah.
because I'm like, it's a legacy. I must keep the 1995 Yahoo email.
Totally.
So I just log into it. But yeah, I worked as a legal assistant. It was super steady. I was just really in my early 20s, and it was a salary job. I had never been paid a salary before. I was like, wow, this is so secure. And then I got married and I moved to Portland with my then husband, who got into grad school down there, and I started to go to college. down at Portland Community College, and I never thought I would be able to go to college. Like that was just something that was not in the cards for me at all.
Right.
I didn't have like the family support or whatever. And that kind of shifted my trajectory professionally. I think not necessarily because it gave me skills to get a job, because I wouldn't say that that's really where my education took me, but it shaped my thinking a lot.
Yep.
Um, and I landed a job out of college at a major civil legal aid organization because I had the legal background, and then I got some of the more political organizing components while I was in college, and I ended up in civil legal aid, which is where I spent like a lot of my late 20s and most of my 30s was in civil legal aid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And ended up operations manager of a 40 no 50-year-old organization, 5 offices across the state. And I was in there. I had little jobs here and there. Operations manager for a wild salmon company.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I also freelanced that whole entire time. Like I never stopped working, even through college,
Right.
all that. I never stopped working. Like this is hustle 50. I'm a
Yep.
hustler. I'm
Yep.
gonna make that money. I worked for
Yep.
you, Rory. I don't know if you remember, but I worked
I
for you
do.
when I
Yeah.
was in
Yeah.
college.
A long time ago.
Long
Yeah.
time ago. So yeah, and so from civil legal aid, I worked at this nonprofit through the pandemic, through lockdown, through I had just had my first child. We go into She's 6 months old. We go into lockdown. Our controller leaves. Our accountant is fired. Our HR director leaves. And so it's
Wow.
me.
Yeah.
It's me. 5 offices,
Yep.
uh, 45 employees. Almost all of them are attorneys, which means they're stubborn and don't want to learn new things and think they're always right. I love you. I love attorneys. And also, this is what it's like working with you.
And they're tech inept.
Oh my God. Well, some of them are
Yep.
better than others.
Some
You
are, but
know,
most aren't.
most are not. I mean, when
Yep.
I was a legal assistant at the family, I had to teach the attorneys how to copy and paste. I
Yep.
had to I'm like, click here, drag across,
Yeah.
highlight
There's a reason attorneys are really good at what they do.
Uh-huh.
It's because
Highly specialized.
they don't focus on any noise at all.
Nope. So, yeah, and so that was moving to SharePoint, Microsoft Teams. We had a major flood in one of our offices during that time, and no one knew because everyone was work from home. So that was major disaster mitigation,
Yep.
two office relocations, so while
Yeah.
doing 4 jobs, hiring 10 people.
What you're describing to me is A, you were thrown to the wolves, which I love learning by. I love people that learn that way because that's what I forced myself to do.
Oh
But
yeah.
it's really hard to convince someone to do that. Those stories are always amazing because it's like a crazy boot camp that nobody can relate to except people that have been through that boot camp.
Hmm.
And the thing that it sounds like to me when you talk about what you did
Hmm.
is it sounds as if you were the CEO having to deal with the things. Now, now, granted, you weren't the CEO, and I understand that, but you're talking about things that CEOs have to touch and approve and deal with. You know,
Hmm.
not only so people that are extremely sort of like important to the organization from a top level, if they go, there's a massive vacuum. It creates a lot of problems. And if you have a physical thing with your structure in one of your locations that's one of multiple, it also affects things downstream and sort of endemically or systemically throughout the entire organization, whether it be connection, network stuff,
Yeah.
whether or not you have to shut down operations for a certain amount of time, blah, blah, blah. Right.
Hmm.
So, okay. So your background is in social sciences and Native American studies, not exactly the typical path into bookkeeping and org design. How do those worlds end up intersecting for you? Like, is that a personal thing or is
This
that
is like
more?
a really big deal, actually, Rory, and I'm very excited to talk to you about it. So I am Indigenous myself, and I have always been like, we could, in this world out here, we could do
Yep.
this better. We
Yep.
could do this better. This the way we're making things work, it's not working, right? Like,
Mhm.
why are we unhappy? Why are we underpaid? Why is power distributed the way it is? I
Sure.
mean, on and
Yep.
on. And I really want to highlight my colleagues' work. I went to Aotearoa, New Zealand in 2015. I spent 2 months doing study abroad there, and I was specifically looking at um, r urban migration, right?
Mm.
So that was my project. I was looking at like Maori urban migration, but my
Cool.
work really intersected with my colleague. Well, they were my classmate at the time, but now they're my colleague, and I work for them.
Right.
And their
Yeah.
name is Sarah and Bon Yancey, and they run TransWA, which is a trans advocacy and mental health support organization. They did this phenomenal project on Indigenous space use,
Mm.
right? And they did this map that will forever be imprinted on my mind. And it was a map of the globe, and it showed how each culture in various regions organizes physical space. So I keep going like this because the Western culture is incredibly linear,
Mhm.
right? Think about Excel, right? Where like tables and charts and like we have
Sure.
box houses and our streets are gridded and all this stuff. Well,
Yep.
many indigenous cultures have very different ways of structuring our land use and our
Mm.
public space, right? And what that really got me thinking and what I carry into my work today is we we utilize space not just in a physical sense, but in an organizational structure sense.
Mm.
Especially when I think of the digitization of the office, I often describe to my clients, imagine all the papers all over your desk. Imagine your file cabinet. Now, what would that look like in a folder on your Google Drive?
Mhm.
What does it
Mhm.
look like to organize things in a world that doesn't really exist,
Yep.
right? And so that idea of indigenous space use has just been this thread throughout everything that I do because really it's like I'm developing systems, I'm developing processes. And when I think about what hasn't worked, well, we can trace a lot of our contemporary labor practices and work practices to the Industrial Revolution, right? There were
Yep.
very specific systems that were created that separated and delineated work in a very specific way. And that's the main template for the corporation today, right? For what we see. But does it work for us?
Mhm. Mhm.
Some people might say, yes, it works very well for them. And a lot of us would say, no, it doesn't work very well for us at all. So, what does it look like to use a different template? And so
Yeah.
that is how I would say, like, that history of labor, in addition to system design through an Indigenous lens, is how it shows up in my career today, how it's been showing up in my career for years. So,
Yeah.
it's the thing I feel most passionate about.
Super interesting. I mean, I would watch a documentary on this topic, you know.
Mhm.
And it sounds like at the very, tippy top like of the iceberg that you see around this concept is at the very least, there are archaic systems that don't serve us as a whole anymore. But we just do them because it's what it was set up on. It was built on that sort of foundation in a time that was very different than today. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of opportunities to optimize from an organizational standpoint, a system standpoint, in the business
Totally.
universe. Right.
Oh, absolutely. And what I really like to share with people is that even if you're profit motivated, which not all of us are, and a lot of the people I work with are not profit motivated, it's more efficient to do
Right.
things differently.
Yep.
You're
Yep.
about to make more money if you start thinking about things differently.
Yep.
But like I think that a lot of people are married to, like you said, the way things are, the way things always done, and then also the other systems that are supported by kind of the hegemony, right?
Yep.
Like who stays in power, who gets access to opportunities. There are people invested in those things, and to change things up would mean to disrupt that. So, yeah.
That can be scary to the stakeholders.
Yeah,
to think about
totally.
things in this way. I understand.
Yep.
So you've worked across a lot of different types of organizations over the years, small businesses, nonprofits, retail, direct service programs. What patterns did you start seeing across all of them that shaped how you think about this work?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the biggest patterns that I noticed, I mean, other than what we were just talking about, right?
Mhm.
Like this marriage to a way things have just been done, is a separation of decision making from like the CEO or the executive
Mm,
branch or team, and then the people actually doing the work,
yeah.
right? And so one of the things that is always been really important to me is that the people that know the work best should make the decisions about how that work is done.
Hmm.
And coming from an administrative background, and the people that I employ are largely similar to me. They've worked their way up from entry level position to the places that they were before they came and worked for me.
Yep. Yep.
And we know that so much of this operational, like what you said, was work that the CEO touches, but actually other people are doing.
Yeah.
Um, those people actually don't have ownership or really a say in how those things are decided a lot of the times.
Yeah, it's interesting. I work with many companies
Mhm.
and I'm often doing the work as like a business analyst to solve.
Mhm.
I wear a lot of hats, but
Yeah.
sometimes I'll be speaking to operational issues. Most of the time I'm speaking to sales and marketing and
Mhm.
or finance issues.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I've seen over the last, I want to say 5 or 6 years, is that the world before Zoom, the world before Slack
Mm.
was very like there was the executive team, and then there was like all the conversations that people had under the executive team. And the main issues that I always saw, the friction was there was a disconnect in how both of those groups saw things very differently
Yeah. Yeah.
in terms of quote unquote what mattered.
Absolutely.
Executive team would just say, it doesn't matter, it's not important, first principles. I know
Mhm.
you're shouting at the mountaintop, but it's not on my priority list, so we need to table that. But
Mhm.
underneath, alongside that one person who's shouting at the mountaintop, there may be exponential people that feel that same way, and they're
Yes.
not being heard, they're not being seen.
Mhm.
Slack, I find, is this like really cool kind of bridge
Yeah.
to having exposure to lots of different conversations. Executives pop in now.
Mm.
They can go back and look at what the context of the conversation was. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying Slack fixed everything. I'm saying we're starting to evolve from a business perspective and a communications perspective that I think is bringing about what you're
Yeah.
doing at a core level.
Yeah. Well, that's
Okay,
great to hear that you're seeing it on your lens,
a
from your
little bit,
lens.
a,
Yeah,
a
a
little
little bit,
bit, you
right?
know.
Right?
It depends on the corporate culture as well, but
Absolutely.
but across the board, I'm seeing an effort or a societal need to
Hmm.
really be heard. And I think what happens is the really important issues do get seen a lot faster,
Hmm. Yeah.
and or
I mean,
recognized.
um, in a lot of ways, the tactics that corporate leaders often use to prevent communication among workers have been broken down, right? And so you've got more
Exactly.
fluid conversation, more interaction, and so this thing that isolated us, that physically isolated us in a lot of ways and affected our emotional and interpersonal relationships without a doubt, brought more communication among workers.
Yeah, and I think that at the end of the day, executives are starting to understand and authentically want their organization to take pride in the
Yeah.
company that they work for
Yeah.
in a way that makes them feel like they are the inner customer. They have a stake in this. They're a
Mhm.
stakeholder. Very different from how we had been running things for about 100 years in this country. So
Yeah.
All right. So at what point did you start thinking about going out on your own? Was it a slow build or was there a specific moment?
I've thought about it for years. I don't like having a boss. I thought about it for years.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I think that I am just like everyone else, and a paycheck that comes regularly feels really good,
Yep.
feels really stable, feels really secure. I have had various points of what I call underemployment for myself, where I have had to take breaks from like just really, really grinding to take care of myself.
Sure.
And yeah, and in those times, I'm always filling in the gaps with more enjoyable freelance consulting work. I
Yep.
mean, before I started doing freelance work, I was volunteering as a production assistant for burlesque performers
Yep.
because I just wanted to be around them,
Yep.
you
Right.
know? And so, I mean, I gained skills. I mean, I just always like to do stuff, right? I like to make things, I like to do things, you know?
Yep.
Very busy.
Yep.
And so to get to a point, I mean, I had been on steady burnout since lockdown, since that whole situation I was on. I just been
Yep.
burnt out,
Yeah.
right? I mean, my body was starting to, I mean, it had been retaliating against me from,
Sure.
you know,
Yep.
the computer, right?
Mhm.
And I wanted to work in my community, like in the urban Native American community. So I made a shift to work in direct service, serving survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and the families of missing and murdered Indigenous people. I did
Mm.
that for 3 years.
Yep.
Um, and I worked for one organization that was, I mean, really great in a lot of ways and also ran out of funding.
Hmm.
And then I worked for another organization that was less great. And I always say that it wasn't the clients that burnt me out. It was the orgs. It was the systems.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
was how they did things that burnt
Yep.
me out,
Yep.
right? And so I said in the, take this job and stick it.
Right.
I did
Yeah.
it one day in September
Yep.
last year. I go,
Yep.
no more.
Yep.
And I had already landed a pretty significant freelance contract before that. And it had empowered me to be like, okay, maybe I can do this, maybe I
Yep.
can turn my side gig into my full-time gig, right?
Yep.
And then it boomed. It
Yep.
did really well right off the bat.
Yep.
I remember we were at Aurora's birthday party or solstice party. And you're like, "Oh, have you managed to land a client yet?" You asked me, and I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, I was super impressed because most people that are starting consulting gigs, there is a little bit of a lead time
Mhm.
for a larger commitment like that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Sometimes it takes months to land that like first big fish.
Yeah.
Like you can do little onesie twosie things and call
Yeah.
them clients, but I was like, oh damn, that's great.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
the relationships I've built throughout my career. Like,
yep,
I am known by anyone who's ever worked with me or touched my work to be incredibly thorough, efficient, highly detail oriented. Like,
yeah,
so
you're
like they're
trusted.
like, "Oh, Madeline's doing contracting," and a bunch of people jumped on that. So,
Yeah, that's great. You're trusted in the community that
yeah.
you've been working in for
Mhm.
years.
Yeah.
So, okay, let brass tacks, like what was the scariest part of striking out?
Hmm. Um, I would have to say, honestly, it was all ego.
Mm.
I wasn't really worried about money because I'll always make money. I'll
Yep.
always I'll always have a roof over my head and I'll always be fed because I have a beautiful community. So I'm not worried about that. Money, it comes and it goes. I'll be fine. I know how to work. Okay.
Yep.
I'm employable, right? It was ego, it was failure, fear of failure,
Yep.
right? What if I do
Sure.
this thing and I like nobody wants me or they see like me leaving this other organization and are like, look, Madeline's just doing, she can't make it in like the regular work world. And my answer is no, I cannot make it in the regular work world. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there. It does not work. It does not fit good,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah,
totally relate to that.
yeah.
I've mentioned it on previous shows. I'm not a really great I'm not a great candidate for reporting up.
Mm-mm.
I'm not good at dealing with bullshit. I'm not
Same.
good at bullshitting.
Same.
Um, I cannot sleep well when I'm BSing for the sake of like somebody to feel good about their day.
Mm-mm.
And with executives that I've reported to in the past, especially working for large companies, and this is no disrespect, I'm grateful for companies like Microsoft and Intel and the things that they've brought
Mhm.
the world and that sort of thing. But working in those large organizations and reporting to a manager that just takes your slide deck report that's 40 pages long that you worked for a week on to then go hand it to somebody who spends maybe 4 minutes on it, who then sends it to somebody else to present to somebody else so they can get like budget approval, right? So I've worked in those large organizations before, and what I really enjoy doing is if I come into an organization now as like a consultant or a business analyst or a CMO, like or whatever, I tell them that up front. I'm like, look, I'm not joining the team. I'm here as a hired gun. I'm going to be
Yeah.
an assassin, but I'm going to really,
Yeah.
really help and empower the people
Mhm.
essentially below my pay grade. So
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
I'm going to make sure I level them up, find
Mhm.
areas where they can grow,
Yeah, I love
empower
that.
them, make them feel good about it. I really like managing people. I love managing down because
Mhm.
I can bring them up. With
Yeah.
up, it's like it's just a different, I am my own best boss. Like I don't need another boss. There was I've been doing this for 30 years. In
Yeah.
the beginning, I really longed for mentorship. And in the
Mhm.
very
Mhm.
beginning, I found mentorship. And then along the way, I'd seek mentors. Um, but the more I started networking after like 10 years of being in business, I found that everybody just likes to hear themselves talk. And so I stopped networking as much and I started like investing more of my personal time in helping my internal team just be
Oh,
better
yes.
and
Yeah.
or just working with clients directly. So
Yeah.
anyway,
I
all
love
right.
that. Yeah, no, I really resonate with that as well. And yeah, that's awesome, Marie.
So let's talk about Rider Consulting. Like let's
Mhm.
talk about it.
Yeah.
Describe what you do and who it's really built. Like who's your typical client? What do you do for them?
Yeah.
And just walk us through that for a sec.
Um, I I always joke I'm the TCB girl. Like I'm the taking care of business girl. Like
Yep. Yep.
the people that I work with, I tend to thrive with like chaotic vision people. Like
Hmm.
I like taking their ideas and their thoughts and their wishes or their mess a lot of the times and looking at it like a puzzle and
Hmm.
figuring out how do I make this all clean and tidy so
Yep.
that you can pass an audit, which
Right.
is really like the bottom line for me is that I want your organization to be so on your, on top of it that any auditor from any organization could come in and they will have no questions, right? Because it
So
will be good.
can we break that down for those that don't even know what we're
Yeah,
talking about?
yeah,
Like
totally.
just an example explained to almost like an 8-year old. Like what could somebody be audited for and what are you cleaning up in order for that audit to like
Yeah.
pass the muster?
Yeah, so there's like a number of different reasons why an organization would have an audit. And I think that most people, when they hear audit, they're thinking of like a private corporation or an LLC or sole proprietorship, or maybe even your personal taxes, the IRS coming in.
Sure. Yeah.
That is actually probably the rarest audit that I have ever experienced. Most of the time, when I'm working with nonprofits, who is predominantly who I work with,
Hmm.
I have some smaller for LLCs and S
Yep.
corps. I like S corps. I'm an S corp, but
Right. Me too.
yeah. So with nonprofits, the board of directors might require an audit by an external auditing firm. Usually those
Hmm.
are accountants, CPAs that are trained specifically to ensure that an organization is following the GAP or generally accepted accounting principles,
Hmm.
best practices. So it might be the board. Most of the time, it's funders.
Hmm.
So anytime an organization is receiving like a large contract from, say, the county or the city, which is where most orgs are getting, there's still some federally funded organizations out there,
Yep.
fewer
Yep.
than there were before.
Yeah.
But a lot of the folks that I work with are getting county, city, and state grants. And those contracts will require an annual or biannual, every other year, uh, independent audit. And then sometimes those grantors themselves will be like, we actually want to see your files. And I know there's a lot of news right now in King County and Washington State regarding Health and Human Services, where um, they conducted an audit and found
Mhm.
huge amounts of discrepancies, where social service organizations could not even, they could be like, oh, $30,000 is missing. Oops, we don't
Right.
have any documentation.
Right.
And sometimes that's malicious. It is. Sometimes that happens. A lot
Yep.
of the times it's because the government is giving grants to grassroots organizations, as they should, new and coming up organizations that don't have the skills or knowledge to develop a sound financial infrastructure.
Yeah.
And so what I do is I come in and I go, it's okay. You're gonna
Right.
be okay. A lot hard work. It is hard
Yep.
work though. That's part of like what I offer is
Yep.
I'm like, you are busy trying to provide services to low income students in Federal Way, right?
Yep.
Or you're trying to bring, your mission, your vision of doing good to a community of people. You're busy. Let me take care of this. Let me just straighten this out for you so that you can feel safety and security. And it's cleaning up
So
a lot of books.
in the process of cleaning up, are you deploying softwares internally that they're not using, or are you deploying things that is like tools, or are you just literally looking at their books and making sure that they're readable? Like is
Usually I'm using what they have. Sometimes I'll be like, hey, I think you should try this software,
Right. So you're
like,
you're
yeah.
advising them on
Yeah,
better systems.
I'm a big fan of a certain platform that uses cards that you can code your transactions to
Hmm. Hmm.
and take pictures of your receipts, right? I'm a
Right.
big fan of those platforms
Yep.
because you're less likely to lose your receipt. And one other thing that these funders, that grant funders through usually government grants require are receipts,
Right. Yep.
right?
Yep.
So
So is it ever the case where the person that wants to do the audit reaches out to you directly and says, will you do the audit? Or is it always your client says, hey, we're being audited. Will you come help us?
I would never do an internal audit because I'm not a CPA.
Right.
Yeah. So, but what I do is audit prep.
Okay.
So that's getting, it's because the reason why I'm able to do that is I've done it a number of times as an employee of a nonprofit. So I've been on the other end of when the external, it's always an external auditor. It's never like your internal accountant. I mean, you can
Right.
do an internal audit and you can audit anything. You can audit numbers, you can audit policies and procedures. It's a good practice to do is to review what you have and see if you can improve it, right?
Yep.
And so um, yeah, what I do is I prep. And a lot of times that's like, well, yeah, looking at backup documentation. How do you store your receipts? How do you store your check deposits? Internal controls, like risk assessment, like fraud risk is something that's really important in preparing for an audit. So ensuring that you have the checks and balances and that those checks and balances are documented, because that's the thing. You could have a process, but if it's not documented, no one's going to believe you,
Yeah.
right?
Do you find, would it be safe to say that more nonprofits than not probably should be concerned about this and or at least taking it seriously and or at least, and I'm not trying to hustle you right now, but it
Yeah,
seems to
totally.
me like most people should at least reach out to find out like how much you charge and what how long it takes and what is it What's
Mhm.
the payoff for them? And how does that, I mean, it seems if I'm running a nonprofit, man,
Yeah.
I mean, I would want to make sure everything was lined up, not because of the audit, but because I want to make sure that when I do get audited, because I'm asking for more money, there's
Yeah.
no friction.
I think that unfortunately, okay, so one thing, I'm on the board of two nonprofits too. So I'm
Okay.
board chair for one nonprofit and I'm a board member for another nonprofit. And as board chair, you better believe we're going to have everything in order.
Right.
Thankfully, our executive director also feels that way. So there's no friction there.
Awesome.
We're like,
Yep.
keep it on lock, right? I think what I have seen is that one, the grant reporting process or like just the process for getting and grants and reporting them on them has been pretty lax, you
Yep.
know? And I think that with very little oversight. I don't think there necessarily has to be a ton of oversight, right? But I do think that there is this thing where a large organization, dominant culture organization or institution gives pots of money to people who have never had it before and say, spend this,
Yeah.
do what we want you to do. We're going to give you no tools at
Right.
all
Right.
to, to spend it in a way that matches our policies and procedures. And when you fail, we're going to use that as an example,
Right. Yeah.
right? I think there's a lot of that has gone on. So
Yeah.
it's like, here's this money, but we are not going to support you in developing the
Mm.
capacity to manage this money,
Right.
right?
Right.
Nor the oversight site or gentle corrective guidance, right, into moving to a sustainable place and proper stewardship of these resources.
The giver just assumes you're going to do the best you can, and it's up to you to fail or be successful. So
Yeah.
that's clearly a gap that could be fixed.
Yeah.
I get it. I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So I think that's a lot of what I've seen. And but that being said, there are organizations out there killing it. They're just doing an amazing job, even with the lack of resources to support their administrative and operational infrastructure. Because that's another piece of it too, is that no funder really wants to fund admin or operations. They're like, give it to the kids. The money's got to go to the kids. And it's like, well, you've got to pay the people that
Right?
run payroll,
Yep. Yep.
like
Okay,
yeah,
so really quick, your website has this interesting line. The how is as important as the why.
yeah.
What does that mean in practice when you're sitting down with a new client?
I think that most of us who have been employed know what it's like to work in a crummy workplace, right? That you can have all the beautiful vision and you can have all the dreams of this world you want to create, but you treat the people you work with like crap, right? And you make
Hmm.
them feel less than and smaller, or you have really bureaucratic approval processes that make it so they can't get their job done and they're stuck in a forever cycle of getting
Right.
approvals. That's what I'm
Awesome.
talking about.
I
That's what I'm
love it.
talking about.
Yep.
Is that you're a hypocrite if you're out here with this beautiful mission, you're treating people like crap, or you're
Yep.
building dysfunctional systems that make them feel like crap, right?
Yeah,
So,
virtue signaling internally is it's
mm-mm,
so dumb because
mm-mm.
everybody knows what's up.
Yeah,
And they're all talking about it, which is even worse.
yep.
All right,
Which is why I'm like, you want an efficient, productive, profitable organization, do better. Treat your
yep.
people better.
Yeah,
Build better systems.
I call them the internal client. They're your first
Yeah.
customer. You're
Hmm.
the people that work for you. They're the most important. If you don't keep them happy, it won't
Yeah.
sustain.
Yeah.
All right, your work with organizations that have you work with organizations that have an anti-capitalist or
Hmm.
anti-colonial lens, and your site acknowledges that those clients often bristle at the word systems. How do you navigate that tension?
I talk about Indigenous systems. I talk
Hmm.
about how, like, people think that Native people are just out here, like, no rules. Woohoo, I'm so free. I'm like, we are the most protocoled, like, rule following people that I've ever encountered in my entire life, right? And that is because we have thousands of years of observation of the natural world, right? And so I like to talk about the natural systems that exist. And when we tune into what flows, what feels right, and this is where I think that a lot of like data analysis of the workplace or of labor in general really leaves this huge component out, which is like, how does it feel to engage with labor and exchange your labor for a wage, right? Is that we've been engaged in the exchange of labor for resource for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And so, if we can understand that the systems that we're bristling against or that we feel like are antithetical to our values or how we want to interact with the world, well, we do exist like, and this is the thing, is that we live in this world which has these kind of preset template. We got to do something. I got to pay the excise tax, right? I
Right. Yeah.
gotta I gotta do those things or else I ain't gonna work anymore. It's just gonna be, excuse me, stuff is gonna be shut down.
Yep.
um but that, like, and that's why I say anti-colonial and decolonial. I mean, anti-capitalist and anti-colonial,
Hmm.
not decolonial,
Yeah.
because to be decolonized is to be free, is to be is as if those systems of regulation and control no longer hold their grasp on us. No, I'm working in resistance, and that's what I share with my clients and with anyone who will talk to me about it, really. You
Sure.
know, is that these are
So,
actions in resistance to the systems that don't work for us.
right, right. And so it's funny because as you're talking about this, when we talk about the technical work, it seems very sort of accounting focused,
Mhm,
reporting focused. You clean up some documentation, and sometimes that's vast amounts, and essentially you get to look at it and review it and go, okay, it's ready to be presented if somebody wants to see it.
mhm,
On the other hand, it sounds like what's really unique about writer consulting is there's like an HR element to what you bring to the table from a Native or First Nations
mhm,
perspective
mhm.
that influences, I think, some things that wouldn't really affect the reporting, but might affect how organizations are structured, how communication is handled. Like, tell me a little bit about that. Like,
Well, I
what?
can tell you how it does affect the reporting. And this is the
Yeah.
thing that how the numbers get in the system. Somebody puts the numbers in the system,
Oh,
right? You're collecting that data from somewhere.
right.
What format does that data take, right?
Hmm.
How is that data collected? Um,
You mean,
the
is it the most user friendly? Is that what you're
Yeah, I
saying?
mean,
Yeah.
the biggest breakdown that I see, honestly, in day-to-day operations of a nonprofit is you do the thing, and then you have to get the data about the thing into the system that generates the reports,
Right.
and a person does that. And
Yeah.
yeah, we're using AI, we're using different technology, but there's still a human touch on everything.
Mm.
And functionally, if you're not looking at your process between point A when the event occurs and point B, including all the people, or even not even people, inboxes it has to touch, right? When you create your data collection form, what fields are you putting there? How do they populate? All of those things. Like, that's all the kind of stuff that I'm thinking about too. And that is those are human touch points.
Yeah.
Uh,
So it's
so,
almost like a little bit of information architecture, a little bit of systems, a little bit of ease of use and platform,
mhm.
and that probably often gets like way overlooked because once somebody
You
procures
don't
a yeah,
say.
once somebody procures a system, if I'm an executive, I'm a CFO, or I'm even like a CIO, I'm gonna say, okay, we bought that 3 years ago. What's the problem? Why is this a problem? It was a huge spend. Like,
Mhm.
why do we need to change it? And why didn't I hear about it? And it's like, what? And I get it. I get that there would
Yeah,
be friction from
yeah,
the CIO, especially. But it makes perfect sense that nobody ever thought to test it
yeah.
because it was just like it was procured, it was installed, it was implemented, checkbox done. Um,
Well, I'll tell you, Rory, I have a dream of learning how to code one day because
right.
We need to build more flexible and dynamic systems. The issue with profit motive, right, is you want to build something static so that you can charge a subscription fee, or a licensing fee 3 years or 1 month or whatever down the line. That doesn't actually work for our organizations because, like you said, these things become dated or no one uses them
Yeah. Yeah.
most of the time, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a big selling point that I talk to people about what I offer is I'm like, oh, I'm not just building software dependent systems. I'm building processes, policies, procedures that are flexible and dynamic. Like the employee handbook is a perfect example. I've worked on a million employee handbooks. If you write something down and you look at it like a fixed document that's never going to change, how much work goes into updating it again? So much work.
Right. Yeah.
You can build it differently, right? You can delegate and distribute ownership. You can create routines for updates and revisions, and there's
Hmm.
a way that you can turn it into a dynamic living document. And you can
I
do that
love
with
it.
all your systems and processes.
I love all this. This is awesome. Okay, what has been the most rewarding part of running this thing so far?
Um, I travel everywhere.
Nice.
No, I'm a really cultural person, right? Like that's a big part of my life. I I heard my friend's mom introduced me to this concept many, many years ago, right when I started college, a lifestyle entrepreneur, right? Is you become an entrepreneur so you can live the life that you want, right? That's me.
Yeah.
I became an entrepreneur so that I could be free, whether it's free physically, emotionally, financially, maybe one day, you know,
Yeah.
but I go home to my traditional territory. I go visit like community in California or Albuquerque. I'm gonna spend a month out in Shinnecock on Long Island, from August to September with some of my relatives out there. Take my daughter out there and like summer in the Hamptons, like Indian style, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And I just this is how I want to live my life. It feels right. It feels good. And it's been the best part. And I'm almost ready to sign up for Starlink so that I can
Yeah,
work off the grid.
man. I've thought about it. I've
So,
thought about it. Griffin's still home, so I can't like go on the road, but I do really hear, I share that ability to work from anywhere.
mhm.
I can go anywhere in the world, and from our social media because we're friends, I travel a lot,
Yeah,
and we like to take our kids to Japan and Europe and all over the place, and I get to work whenever I want,
yeah,
and
same.
it's and I've got a staff that knows how to cover me if I'm really off the grid, but
I'm
that
working on that because I need to take some actual vacation. I'm like gonna finish my ceremony coming up and I'll be like, all right, hopping on a meeting,
yeah, the freedom
Yeah.
and the ability to control my time
Hmm.
is far outweighs my corporate maximum dollar amount I could make an hour. Far
100%.
outweighs it.
Yeah.
I could be 5 times richer,
Yeah.
but I enjoy working in my garden. I enjoy going on trips. I enjoy spending time. If Dawn, my wife, needs me to go to the store and get something for dinner, I can go do it. I'm
Yeah.
not like off,
Yeah.
gone,
Yeah.
disconnected, totally burnt out when I come home,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
All
Totally.
right, well, just wrapping up, what's next for Rider Consulting? Where are you taking it from here?
Well, the summer needs to finish and all my like really big travels need to wrap up. But I have some long-term goals. The first goal is to transition to a worker-owned cooperative. I'm currently an S Corp and I have been bringing people on slowly but surely.
Yeah.
And one of the parts that I've always struggled with is the profit component. I mean, not a lot of business owners are like, "Yay, profit." And I'm like, "Ooh, this feels weird." I heard once someone say that any profit is exploited labor. And bold, I know, right? But these people are my sisters, right? So
Yep.
I don't want to be taking money from them.
Yep.
And so transitioning to a worker-owned cooperative, potentially building out big dreams is healthcare and benefit cooperative for contractors and freelancers. That's kind of something that I know there's large corporations doing it, but having experience in benefits administration, that's something that I want to be able to share with folks. And then another big picture is workforce development. There are
Mm,
contracts for workforce development that are available through like the county and the state, and I'm familiar with navigating those. So I really want to give. So I used to be a DV and SA advocate, right?
yep.
How many of these women needed work that they could do from home?
Mm,
How many of these women were paid 23 to $25 an hour at some retail job and they were struggling to like get their kid from school at the end of the day or find childcare? I would love to develop a workforce development program that supports people and specifically single parents or struggling parents in developing remote technical skills so that
oh,
they can
love it.
also have what I have.
I love that. It's so important and so realistic
Mhm.
because we have all these people that could go to work and they could work from home, and there's just plenty of opportunity for that. I think that's amazing.
Smart people, people who could pick things up, but they did not get the opportunities that I got. Like, why'd they hire me as a bookkeeper?
Yep. Yeah.
Like, why'd they do
Totally.
that? I don't
Yeah.
know, but they did it. So, and I
Okay.
just want to share it. I just want to share it.
I love it. I love it. Before I let you go, tell everyone where they can find you in Rider Consulting. Where should people go first? I'm assuming it's the website, which I'll put
Yep.
the link below.
Yep. www.rider. That's RIDER, not RYDER people. Rider-consulting.com. I've got a contact form on there. I'm not doing social media yet. I just don't really have a lot of time or capacity. So hit me up on the website. Or, if you know Rory, I'm sure he could put us in touch, right?
Right. Yep.
So,
I can help. Well,
yeah, thank
thanks.
you.
Thanks so much for being on the show. This is exactly the kind of story that reminds people the work happening behind the scenes, the systems, the operations, all the stuff nobody sees.
Mhm.
It's what actually holds everything together. For everyone watching, I will put those links below. And Madeline, any final thoughts you want to leave people with?
Okay, here's my final thought, okay? In
All
order
right.
for the world to be different, we have to do different. And that takes risk, and that takes faith, and that takes just letting go of what we think we need to do. So I just like your message of the podcast, it takes action, right?
Yep.
We have to do different.
Yep.
It's not going to happen just for us in front of us.
Yeah,
So,
and there might be some learning in that.
oh, totally. And
So
some
what?
insecurity.
Yeah, a little bit of
So
fear.
what?
It's all right.
Yep. Hmm.
You're awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Rory.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care. Bye.
Okay, bye.